What's good, people? Thanks as always for passing by the channel. Much appreciated. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. Green chair. So I'm back. I'm officially back in London. I'm not joking, came through the door about 10 minutes ago. And I decided I need to film straight away. I've not even unpacked. Not even bullshit. I've not even unpacked. I said I need to film straight away because I'm itching to talk about Chris Eubank Jr. versus James Degale. Before we even do that, shout out to Steve Newton Boxing for this little wonderful t-shirt that he gave me. It's got Steve Newton Boxing at the back, but I'm not going to turn around and show it. Does amazing stuff for fighters in Cape Town. Got a good little fighter in his ranks as well, a guy called Tambani Baby Jake Mbangafa. I was commentating on this guy's fight 2 days ago and his shoulder popped out. Not even fucking with you. His shoulder popped out in a 10-round title fight, round 6 I think it was. Got to the corner, a doctor popped his shoulder back in, popped it back in, carried on fighting, won the fight by decision. So Steve Newton's obviously got some courageous young kids in it. All right, let's talk Chris Eubank Jr. versus James Degale. Firstly, I heard that the attendance wasn't great. Some people told me it was around 12,000. Some people said 8. Some people say 10. So what we do know is that it wasn't full. I didn't expect it to be. I kind of expected that kind of attendance. Maybe a bit more considering there wasn't any other big fights going on. But it's not a bad thing. I mean, it's not a bad thing. ITV will care more about the pay-per-view numbers than the attendance. And they might be good. Everyone was talking about the fight. It was getting a lot of chatter on social media. So if it got anywhere between 150, 200,000 buys, which is massive, probably not, then it done well. Talking about the fight, first and foremost, can we just put a bit of respect on Chris Eubank Jr.'s name? This all seems to be about James Degale. All I'm hearing about is James. Nothing about Chris. It does take two to tango. And yes, we all knew going into the fight that James Degale wasn't the James Degale 4 or 5 years ago. Everyone knew that. But it didn't stop the likes of Carl Frampton and Darren Barker saying that, oh, James Degale winning on points is like printing money. So they knew that he was going in as a kind of a flat James Degale that we haven't seen put on a good performance maybe since Badu Jack. But they still said he was going to win easily by points, and they described it again as printing money. Didn't play out like that. So let's give Chris Eubank Jr. just a bit more respect. Again, top pros were saying this was easy work and easy money for James Degale if it went to points. Didn't prove that. I thought, and I did a couple of prediction videos beforehand, and I said, look, James Degale will probably win the first sort of 5 or 6. And then Chris Eubank Jr. will come on strong and it'll be very close in the end. And I actually said James Degale will probably get it on points just because of that. Completely different from the way I thought. Chris Eubank Jr. started like a fucking steam train and James Degale simply had nothing for him. Simply had nothing for him. There were no excuses about injuries. James Degale didn't look beaten up at the end of the fight. I mean, look how he looked against Caleb Truex the first time around and especially Badu Jack. Didn't look beaten up. He just got out hustled. He actually even got outmanned and outstrengthed, which surprised me. Remember, he's the natural 168 pounder. Chris Eubank really is a 160 pounder. He got outmanned and outstrengthed by a smaller guy there. If Chris Eubank Jr., and this is going to be a big statement here, but if Chris Eubank Jr. had a bit more, and not a lot more, just a bit more boxing IQ, bit better footwork, I'm just talking bits here, and could use his jab, he could be a threat at 160 or 168. It just doesn't have those things. And that's why when he does take on, and he's been calling out obviously the top guys now as he would after that result, he's going to lose just because he doesn't have a good jab. Foot movement is awful. Even when he throws Chris Eubank Jr., he really throws wide, which, I mean, if you're a smart boxer that's still got something about him, I mean, he's just open for a straight right or even a good jab down the pipe. But what he does have that a lot of top boxers don't have is his work rate. His fitness and work rate are through the roof. His will to win is through the roof. His determination and mindset are through the roof. And again, if you could just add a jab, a bit of foot movement, a bit better boxing IQ, with all those things I just mentioned, there's a very good boxer there. But I just don't know if you can teach that. I don't know if even a top trainer can instill those things in him. I think him and his trainer seem to get on. They seem to get on very well, but I don't know if it's enough in order to change those fundamentals for Chris Eubank Jr. to go to that next level, and that's where he wants to go to. There has been talk about Billy Joe Saunders. It looks a good fight. Billy Joe Saunders looks like he will take his next fight at 168. That hasn't been 100% confirmed. There is an issue with the WBO, with Ramirez said he's not vacating, but that's a good fight. A lot of people seem to think that Chris Eubank Jr. will get schooled by Billy Joe Saunders, and I tweeted yesterday, I don't think that's the case. I mean, their first fight, I was ringside for their first fight. It was a close fight. Billy Joe Saunders clearly won the first 6 rounds, and I think that Chris Eubank Jr. clearly won 5 of the last 6 rounds, hence why it was a split decision. It was a very, very close fight. Chris Eubank Jr. was awful on the night. Billy Joe Saunders wasn't great either, don't get me wrong, but if no one told you the result, you would never think it was a split decision. It was a close fight. They both, I think, improved. Billy Joe Saunders obviously made much more improvements than Chris Eubank Jr. But again, Chris Eubank Jr.'s work rate, fitness, and power, it looks like he has now at 168, could help him as well in these close fights. He does, however, need to go back down to 160. He can't hang with these guys at 168. He doesn't need to get excited about beating a way past James Degale and think that he can compete with some of the guys at 168. He can't. They're just far too big. They're far too big and they're fresh. Caleb Plant's fresh. Callum Smith's fresh. He can't compete with those guys. He really can't compete with those guys. 160 is dangerous, but again, at least there he might have some sort of a size advantage. 168, he loses all those advantages. So 160 is where he needs to campaign at. Will he do that? Will his ego be too big and thinks that he can beat some of the guys at 168? I don't know. But can you picture him versus Callum Smith? A middleweight versus really a light heavyweight. Callum Smith will destroy him. So I think he does need to go back down to 160. For James Degale, I hope he sticks to his pre-fight promise, which is retire. He seemed so upset with himself at the post-fight interview, almost looking at Chris Eubank Jr. and saying to himself, 2-3 years ago, I would have destroyed you. And now you've beaten me, you've hurt me. And in some instances, he outboxed him. For James Degale, he's done everything he can do. I mean, Olympic gold medalist, European champion, world champion, big fights in America. He's done it. What more can he do? He would have hoped to have maybe gone out with that big Anfield fight against Callum Smith. It's done now. Can he try and get a rematch with Chris Eubank Jr.? I don't think people are going to be interested in it, so it's done. It's done, and I hope that he retires now, because if he doesn't, he's going to get into that situation where he's taking fights as a challenger and he's taking fights, risky fights that he can't win. So fingers crossed James Degale decides to retire. It will be very, very interesting to see what Chris Eubank Jr. does now. Will it be at 160? Will it be at 168? One thing we do know is that it will be on ITV. It will be on ITV box office. He is signed, I think, a 3 or 5 fight deal with Al Heyman as well. So it's interesting times for Chris Eubank Jr. It was a must win, and I thought it was a better performance as well. It wasn't just the win. I thought he done some good things there. Again, there are things that he needs to work on. Can he get those things in training? I don't know, but I think it was one of his better performances. And again, let's give him respect for the win. Everyone said that James Degale was going to win the first 6 or 7 rounds, and then Chris Eubank Jr. was maybe going to win the next 4 or 5 rounds because of fitness. It didn't play out anything like that. James Degale, on my books, won 2 rounds. Where those scorecards came of 115, 112, 114, 112, I have no idea. I'm with the 117, 109. That's how dominant it was. So give credit for Chris Eubank Jr. on dominating James Degale. And that's what he did. He dominated him. So well done to Chris Eubank Jr. What do you think of potential names next? Should James Degale retire? Should Chris Eubank Jr. go back down to 160 or stay at 168? Let me know what you think. Peace.